Hi, this is Shannon from Voices of Defiance, a podcast member of the GonnaGeek Network, just like the one you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual. Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. And get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You have been granted clearance by Director Phil Coulson. Stand by for S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. Director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Agent Stargate Pioneer.
I'm Agent Haley.
I'm Keir.
And I'm Chris.
Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Marvel Comic Universe podcast. This is podcast number 79 on Daredevil, Season 1, Episode 5, World on Fire. This podcast is recorded on Wednesday, June 17th, 2015. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the ABC television show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel's Agent Carter, Marvel's Daredevil on Netflix, and the general Marvel Comic Universe.
Because of extrasensory perception.
Ooh.
If you'd like to talk to us about extrasensory perception, you can visit our website, legendsofshield.com, where you'll find all of our contact information. We have a voicemail line, 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube by searching for Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. And we have forums available at forums.gonnageek.com, or you can search for GonnaGeek on the Tapatalk app.
This time on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we'll be welcoming Keir and Chris to the podcast in just a second. We'll be talking about World on Fire, the Daredevil episode. It's amazing. We'll also have the second version of Neil's Mighty Marvel moment. We're talking about your weekly Marvel news and your feedback. Keir, welcome back to the podcast.
Look, my chair's still warm from the last time.
I don't know what you were doing in the chair, but okay. As long as you're comfortable in it.
I'm sensing the warmth. Hold on. Let me close my eyes.
Are you going to touch your chair?
This is a family show. Stop it.
Oh.
Can you feel the butt groove you've worked into the chair from sitting there for so long?
Marge, I've been working on that groove for months.
With your extra senses.
Hey, and you heard him. His name is Chris. He's from a lot of GonnaGeek Network podcasts. All things good and nerdy, GonnaGeek, and Walking the Walking Dead. His name is Chris. Welcome to the podcast, Chris.
Hello.
So, Chris, you are a Marvel fan. You've actually been on this podcast before, right?
I think so. I just can't remember when. It's probably been 20, 30 episodes, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think it was last year, but you've been on this podcast before, and we welcome you back. Lauren had to take the night off, so we brought in our Marvel ringer that we could get a hold of on the network anyway. And Chris is here, so it's the four of us this week, and we're excited to talk to you about Daredevil. And let's get right to it. Daredevil, World on Fire was written by Luke Calto. If you take a look at Luke's IMDb page, you will not find much there. But I gotta say, with this episode, the man does excellent work. He will have no problems getting a job.
Well, I mean, Luke is responsible for at least secondary and tertiary writing for most of the episodes that came out of the season he had.
That's true. And he had 2 full writing credits, though, in the season, right?
Yes. He also served, though, as a primary story editor for just about all of the episodes, I think short of maybe one. And for those of you who are not completely versed with exactly what a story editor is responsible for, bear in mind that when a lot of the decisions for inclusion or cuts are done and scenes get left in the editing room floor, that's your individual who is determining well after post-production whether the original script as it was filmed still conveys the message that was intended. So if it does not carry that tone, if it does not convey that message, if it does not move that plot, the story editor is the one to catch that. So that's of pivotal importance.
Absolutely. And a lot of times editing and writing go hand in hand. Sometimes it doesn't, but in this case, I think it went together great. And then it was directed by Farron Blackburn, who has kind of a 15-year history of directing of different shows. Not incredibly geeky, but he's got 2 writing credits. Well, we've already seen one episode that he's done, Nelson versus Murdoch. Or is that's coming up? Sorry.
That's in the future.
We haven't seen Nelson versus Murdoch yet, but we'll see him again. And this episode was a great depiction of what he's capable of doing. It was fantastic.
He's done a lot of British television direction, specifically on things like The Musketeers just over the last season, Luther in season 3, which was an extremely dark season for Luther, as if it could get any more dark than it already was, and has even directed Stargate Pioneer's favorite freaking Doctor Who episode on the planet for reasons we still to this day do not understand, The Rings of Akaten.
I just like it. It spoke to me. It was great. Way up till the end when you have this planet floating out there without a sun. Dead planet. Great. Yeah. Okay.
Fine. But yes, so as far as his chops with editing scenes with a lot of intensity, those three just in point. And the series, I'm not really familiar with the upcoming series, The Interceptor, that has been getting a bit of press lately. I guess I'll find out more about it as it comes to point of release. But that should be another interesting one to keep an eye out for.
Right. The Interceptor is shown to be about a customs officer, so it's definitely going to be more of a cop sort of FBI-ish sort of thing.
Heavy drama, heavy intensity. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Keir, you actually had a note to begin off in the shared document of this episode, and you say, quote unquote, transition episode? I argue not. I got to tell you, there were several comments made in this entire episode that kind of led it to, this is all set up to the very moments that happened in the last 5 minutes of the episode. And no, it is a transition, but it was set up to that point. And this is the first crescendo of the series, I would argue.
I'll take that.
It's the close of Act 1.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate descriptor. The reason why I had put that into the notes was because I was noticing a lot of daily critics who were taking this episode apart as saying that this was simply just the stitching between the folds and was just meant to convey us from one intense moment to another. But what they fail to recognize, and I think it's one of the things I know we'll probably spend a little bit of time talking about tonight, is the fact that this establishes a couple of basic underpinnings or core tenets for at least two of our principal characters. And specifically with Fisk, I think the dinner date moment between Fisk and Vanessa is absolutely imperative to defining him for this season.
It also helped define the relationship, and it helped me visualize again why Vanessa started down this dark path, because she understands it's a dark path, but at the same time she's kind of being fooled, and Fisk is playing her well.
I'll lob that back out. Do we feel that she is particularly naive, or is she really more aware of the gravity of what's going on around her than she lets on because she accepts it and therefore doesn't have to point it out?
I've got an opinion about that, but Haley, what do you think?
What do I think about their relationship, or about this as a transition episode?
Vanessa, well, yeah, whatever you want, but the question that Keir threw out there was, do you think Vanessa is naive, or do you think that she is well cognizant of everything going on around her?
I think it's actually the opposite. I think she's not as naive as you expect her to be. I think going in, your expectation is she's going to be this good person and she's going to find out the truth about him and be appalled. And we see that's exactly the opposite of the case. She's totally fine with him being cutthroat and vicious and blowing things up. Right,
but he snows her over by saying, those guys that kidnapped the boy and beat the boy, they won't be hurting anybody anymore. And she was like, good. So that was the manipulative part of the last scene.
I don't know that was as necessarily as manipulative, rather, but a way just to kind of justify, to give that first excuse for why this needs to be done, why things need to be cleaned up. And then after that, it's easier to accept because you've accepted it once.
Yeah, well, and it goes back to that old thing, everyone's the hero of their own story. Wilson Fisk doesn't see himself as a villain. He's a hero. You just have to understand why he's doing the things he's doing.
Correct. And we haven't gotten to the part with his father yet, although it was mentioned, oh yeah, my father passed away. I'm like, a little bit more to the story than that, but we'll get to that later, I guess.
Yep.
So, Chris, what was your favorite part of the episode? I think you recently watched it, right?
I just watched about half of it before we did this podcast because I needed a refresher. And honestly, it's going to sound pretty stupid, but, well, not stupid, but maybe obvious. The way Matt describes his ability to see that was what I liked so much because it was so much better done in the TV show than it was in the actual Daredevil movie from years back.
Well, that didn't take much.
Where everybody had stink lines.
Yes.
Yeah, this was the only scene in the entire series so far that we've seen what he is perceiving around him.
And I think that's smart. I think in the movie, that's something that they relied on way too much, was his radar sense and showing what it was. Here, he does a good job of describing how it is he sees things, and you get a glimpse. And that's all you really need to know. They do the rest in this show with nice camera shots and angles and nice expressions on Matt's face when he hears something in the distance. They don't have to use the special effects to show, oh, this is what he's seeing.
Right. Well, I think specifically, and this is actually a conversation I had with a couple of people that had watched the series throughout and said, oh, it's interesting. They did away with the blue and they introduced this red vision. And it's not the same. Please go back and watch episode 5 again. Because all he is doing...
And go watch the movie again.
is he's just describing that when you pull together all of the sensory inputs that he does have at his disposal, the end result, specifically, I mean, things like, you talk about the lick of flames and that sort of thing, is the way they try to convey it visually, is how he's picking up olfactory senses. The pulsing in the air that would be sort of the radiant heat is actually what he senses as far as a tactile sensation on his skin. It was a very carefully chosen visual representation of the remaining 5 senses that he had at his disposal, and I think it was brilliantly done. And the fact that they were so sparing with it was a very wise choice. As you said, Chris, not relying on blue vision in 30% of his points of interaction.
They really don't have time for it because the action scenes where that is brought up in the Daredevil movie, you don't have time to reference that. These episodes kept on getting longer and longer. I don't have the episode runtimes in front of me, but I know I'm on the treadmill for an hour and this ran slightly more than an hour. Of course, I backed it up just a couple of times to catch certain things on my second watch, but you're bordering on not being able to fit this in and I don't know if it ever will be, but fit it in a TV broadcast time. And to get back to your point on the carefully chosen and crafted and everything, they did it so well. They started it with, I can smell copper in the air. So you have busted open your cut again. And, oh, I can feel the vibration in your hairline fracture.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. And they just led up to it. And to do it with Claire, who is the major romantic interest for Matt, at least up to this point. Although he had a little thing going on with Karen too, but little flirty moment, right?
And if you've read the comics, you know how that's going to go.
Yeah.
Really well for everybody.
Yeah, everybody wins.
So it was just so well done, and it just didn't stop there. I've said this before, there was not a wasted line of dialogue in this entire thing. Everything meant something. You have to pay attention. Keir, you watch this in the background while you cook, right?
Well, one of the many times.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably say on first watch, it's glued to the screen. Second watch, it's probably while doing other activities. And because what I note, this is just the way that I end up consuming a lot of shows that I get passionate about, is the first time is what I refer to as the Christmas effect, where it's, you just open the present and everything is absolutely tuned into it. Second time around, you can't put the thing down, so you start dragging it around the house and involving it in everything you do. So while I'm cooking, while I'm folding laundry, whatever it is. So this is something where, specifically with some of these descriptors, on second watches, I'm watching for more of the nuances, specifically things like technical aspects. And those are the things that really stand out to me. Some of the editing decisions, some of the mix on the sound. If I had the opportunity to, if the first time it's up on the TV, but the second time around I'm on a tablet or on a laptop or something, and I can throw the headphones on and really listen to the quality of the mix down. So those are what I tune into on the second and subsequent rewatches.
So talking about tuning in like that, question for you guys. Have any of you tried the settings for the visually impaired on Daredevil?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the first things on Netflix where they have settings for visually impaired viewers, and basically they describe the scenes as they're going on. And I just watched a little bit, like the opening credits, the way they described that. I was like, holy crap, this is really good.
Yep. It's been going on in DVDs and movies for quite some time, where you can turn it on and you can hear them describe. And they try not to interfere with the actual dialogue or the score in the background, but I mean, you have to keep up with it at some point in time. So it's a mix, right? Where you're going up and down with the background and the description. And the people that put that together have become more and more just craftsmen and experts in it that it's fun to listen to if you have to have it on the background.
This sounds to me a lot like, 'cause I've done a lot of stage work. And so anytime you look over a stage script, you're dealing with, interspersed with all the dialogue are the stage directions.
Yes.
Which are literary descriptions of most of the major points of action that are happening on scene. It's not a movement by movement blocking description, but it is something where someone enters a room or someone grabs something off of the coffee table and examines it closely. That's about the depth of detail that you get. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
Really interesting. So now it seems more like they're giving you the full script of a full stage production. Huh.
Yeah, if you get a chance, just turn it on for like 5 minutes, and it's really impressive how well done it is.
We'll do this.
And some are better than others. Some are more, it's not even reporter. It's like a teletype sort of voice and really shotgunning it out and like an automatic, not shotgun, but an automatic rifle and stuff like that. And some just are trying to tell the story and describe what you're seeing in words. And, you know, it's very difficult to do that. So yeah, I agree, Chris. Just turn it on, see what it's about. And we see blind people in this series. Matt, okay, you can argue whether he's really blind or not, but Madame Gao's delivery people, I guess, her workforce, they're experiencing it all the time as well. So this is really, you're trying to depict what they're going through, and it's difficult when you can actually see, but I think they do a good job. So that was pretty cool.
Have there been any articles or anyone coming out at this point to talk about the validity or the accuracy of the way blindness has been conveyed in this series? I'd be interested to see.
It wouldn't surprise me if there were. I haven't seen them.
I thought I remembered hearing or reading something about someone saying Matt wasn't using his stick right, but he's not really using it, so.
Yep.
That's true, yeah, the character, he doesn't really personally rely on it, but I would still think that he would be able to fake it accurately.
Well, he's not really blind.
But I thought more about things like, you know, based on the age he was when he lost his sight, whether he would still be turning towards point of focus when conversing and that sort of thing. Some of the little details about, you know, focusing on that middle distance in the room and those sort of points. I don't know.
Yeah. So there's a lot more that happened in this episode. The whole thing between Foggy and Karen and the salon blowout ex.
Okay. I know we're supposed to hate her from the jump, but you really can't entirely because Foggy keeps cutting under this with implications of the fact that she was something more, still could be something more. Maybe she's not quite as Ice Queen as they wanted her to be.
Well, at the end, she ends up helping him out, right?
Right. I guess I was expecting more of a spring thaw to extend the metaphor, you know, where she really came across as just a horrible, as Foggy implied, a soulless person at the get-go, so that her transition was something where, wow, okay, the situation is that severe. It's actually bringing people back to life, so to speak.
Right. Well, the whole situation where they have the lobby meeting, I mean, that's setting her up in that mindset, or setting the viewer up to view her like that, because that's a negotiating tactic where you have a meeting and you send a junior partner or a junior person in your office and you meet them in the lobby and you have the meeting there and you try to have the strong stick. And so
yeah, it's very much a power move.
Yeah. So she's depicted like that from the get-go just by the situation.
Okay. I'll take it.
And then we uncover a little bit more as it goes along and whatever. But I mean, heck, it's New York City. You get a bunch of that. She's not alone. There's a big rat race in New York and she's part of it.
Well, and it's not even that it's New York. It's a prestigious cutthroat law firm. It's going to turn anybody into that type of person if they stay there long enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
I will say this much, though. For whatever her character or what the actor is able to breathe into it, I will say that as a result of that particular exchange, this is probably one of the few episodes where I particularly like Foggy. And I will say one of the few episodes.
Really? Some Foggy hate.
Wow.
I just, Foggy, I'm not going to call it Foggy hate. I'm going to call it Foggy meh.
Huh.
So your feelings on him are foggy?
They are rather foggy, if you will.
I enjoyed him in this series. It took me a little getting used to because Jon Favreau played Foggy in the movie, so a little bit different take on it. Definitely younger. Not that Jon Favreau was old when he played the role, but Foggy is definitely younger than Jon was during the role.
Right.
But I enjoyed him in the rewatch from the beginning here. Just 5 weeks ago, I've been following him along, and I enjoyed him, and he just rolls with the punches, and all the way up to, and we're not there yet, but the episode where he has the truth moment with Matt later on. That is when stuff got a little sticky because he didn't take that very well. But up till this point, what are you seeing that you're not really grabbing a hold of him?
I think a lot of it is just the acting specifically. There is the ability to breathe life into the script, and then there is the ability to convey the script in one's personal voice. And I think in this particular case, the side of the coin that I keep seeing is that he is doing a fine job of taking what is on the page and making it sound like natural conversation. But it is not his conversation. And I know that's an aesthetic that's kind of hard to quantify, but I'll have to work on a couple of examples that can show you, the role that differs between one actor taking a hold of it. I'll take Shakespearean productions if it ever comes down to it, because you'll take somebody who can take a short monologue and say, wow, okay, they really expressed that well, they spoke it well, they made it breathe off the page. And then you'll have the next individual in another production years later who will take that monologue and speak it, and it will be something where it came from them. It was their speech. And I think that's the difference of what I see from Eldon here in this particular case, is that he does a fine job of making Foggy this affable, lovable, downtrodden doof of a character, but it's not him. Okay. It's not him. I think I could find a half a dozen people that could do the same thing with that role.
All right. Ileana RVS in the chat says foggy indifference.
That is foggy indifference.
There you go.
Nice.
So tell you what, Keir, you said that you want to look at some specific instances where you didn't think it really fit. Tell you what, why don't you come back the last episode of the series and give us some examples of that. Okay.
I have to.
So, Chris.
Yes, sir.
What'd you think about the SUV being washed?
Man, that was messy.
I like that you could see the little skull fragment.
Yeah, and the brain.
There's a lot of blood and ... Yeah, right. Brain.
And the whole meeting of the Evil League of Evil, as Lauren likes to call it, in the garage. I love those. Those are great, especially with Leland.
Leland gets the best one-liners, man.
It's great. I'm going to go get my taser out of...
No, it was a stun gun.
There's a stun gun. Yeah. I'm getting my stun gun out of storage.
Oh, that was so funny.
The best one is when they're asking if he's going to go along with me. He goes, what? Going against the three of you? I like my head where it's at. And I was sitting there, I was like, ooh, well played. And then I was like, oh yeah, head smashing. Ooh.
I know.
Too soon.
Ooh. And then you see Anatoly's corpse, right? And it's without the head. You're like, oh my gosh, he really did take his head off.
Yeah.
What, you thought they were kidding?
No, well,
I mean, the explosion of blood and gore all over the floor didn't tell you that was happening.
I mean, it could have been squashed. I mean, it like literally, and they say it over and over again. He popped his head off. Like, oh my gosh. Fisk. He was a little worked up.
We don't say his name, SP. We don't say his name.
He's great. Wilson Fisk, we've said it before, he stole the series and definitely his development, or you seeing where he's headed. Like, he set the whole thing up. He's taken the time. He set up the right. He's trying to take it over one partner at a time, basically. Eventually, he'll have no use for the rest of the four of them, and he'll get rid of them. That is his plan, right? They all know it, and they're all trying to position themselves so that doesn't happen. But he sees the Russians as a liability and just, okay, this is time to get rid of him. And oh, by the way, I can use it in my date with Vanessa. He's just a mastermind. I love the way the guy thinks.
I think he's going to get rid of all of them except for Gao. He really seems to respect her. And I don't think, he doesn't seem like he wants to move against her, especially as we get later on in the show. I won't spoil anything, but there's a mutual respect that develops. And he's not fearful, but he's wary of her, I think.
Yeah.
I think he is fearful, but I think that that's a healthy thing to maintain, because I think it's a matter of respect and full understanding of the gravitas that she carries.
Right. I think that's the only person in that group that he really respects.
Oh, hell yeah. Without question.
I mean, look at the way he acts to everyone else.
Yeah. Everyone else gets disdain or gets cut short. She's allowed to speak her mind and say everything that she feels necessary to say, not just because of the fact that she's speaking a language that only 2 people in the room at any given time can respond to.
Right.
Well, she obviously understands English, right? So everybody in the room is talking English, but her words have to be translated back. So
it's a power play.
Oh,
yeah, but from the very beginning, can you understand a language but yet not speak it? Is that even possible?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
And there are a lot of times where you can, well, yeah, I mean, just that's a thing.
When I lived in Germany, I spoke what I referred to as Kinderdeutsch, which meant children's German, because I could not do the grammar right and things like that. Someone could talk to me and I would understand what they were meaning, but if I had to talk back to them, I would always mess up the grammar, and it wouldn't be quite right. So it's sort of in that analogy.
So it's like wing on a podcast?
Well, I still could use H's.
Wesley was he was great. Working the behind the scenes, playing the Russians, setting up Fisk for his date, and dealing with Turk. You know, that whole dealing with Turk, you're like, oh, Turk, I don't know if I'd be buddy-buddy with these guys. It's not going to fare well for you eventually.
I would not trust him with anything ever.
Turk or Wesley?
Turk.
Yeah.
Just, he's unreliable and untrustworthy in every possible way.
He sells guns that jam.
Oops.
And will tout their reliability.
Yeah, that's true.
Finest guns that jam this side of Gotham. Wait a second.
Don't cross the streams. Don't cross them.
Oh, let's talk a little camera work. You know, when the gal's delivery person's in the back of the cab and Daredevil comes out and takes those 2 Russians out with the camera going around in the full 360 circle shot. That was, wow. That was pretty cool.
It's just another instance of they do smart camera work in this show. They do smart shots, and it makes it a so much better experience.
I think they pay a lot of attention to the visual conveyance of the show because of the fact that one of the themes is perception in every definition you want to give it. So I honestly think that from the early storyboarding down to late stages of post-production, they pay a lot of attention to the visual conveyance of every scene that they carry. And as a result, if they have an opportunity to do something that's a bit of a stretch for them, or is an interesting cinematic challenge, they take it on, because to a certain degree, I have to believe that Netflix taking on a Marvel series, granted, they got it secondhand, I understand that, but once they take possession of it as theirs, they realize that they are starting to tread into waters where they have to set the bar as high as possible to prove that they can handle it. So that has to be at the forefront of the minds of a number of the producers and principal editors, because this is something where they're saying, we won the rights to this. A lot of the other networks walked away from it or lost their opportunity or shriveled in the face of it. We're going to take it on, and we're going to do it better than you expect, better than anyone expects, so that when the opportunity comes around again and they want to branch out farther, they have these laurels to rest on. And they keep doing that episode after episode. We keep seeing some of these little technical aspects that prove to us, God, these guys are paying so much attention. I can't imagine that this is just serendipitous. It has to be something where there have been table discussions of how can we push this farther.
Oh, there has to be. I mean, it's smart work done on this series as a whole, and that's just another instance of it.
Do you guys feel like they intentionally designed this show so that it could go on TV someday?
For the runtime, yes. And I think they intentionally left cuts of the scenes where they could take out, and there was no nudity, right? So it's all violence. So I'd have to say yes. But
well, yeah, there's no nudity and there's no language that would exclude them from television that I can remember.
No, there really isn't.
It's just the violence, and that could be easily edited around, I think.
Yeah, you cut a quick couple of seconds here and there, cuts down your overall runtime. I think it's something where they might have the presence to say, well, based on where standards and practices are headed, within a year, things may be lenient enough that we could hand this over for syndication.
Right.
I think they made it fit the Netflix TV model, which is everything is about 60 minutes, give or take 5 minutes. Because do an episode that's about an hour, but don't feel you have to cut stuff out just to make yourself fit to a time limit. Put what makes sense to have in an episode. That's one of the things I really like about Netflix shows like Orange is the New Black and this is that they're not always the same length, but that's okay because they tell the full story they're trying to tell in an episode.
Right. So in podcasting or radio, there's, I forget the author, I forget the lady's name, but she has a quote in a book, which I also can't remember the name of, so I'll put it in the show notes, but there's no such thing as too long or too short, only too boring. And I don't think that this series is boring at all. I don't think there's really an episode in there that's boring. There's suspenseful, there's slow parts, but it all has a meaning, so I don't think it's boring.
Well, and if you want the conspiracy theory for what they're doing with this, is there has been rumors rumbling around the internet of Disney potentially wanting to stand up a Netflix-esque service that is Marvel and Star Wars and all these properties in one place where you would subscribe and watch all of these things.
Haven't they already tried that? I'm trying to remember. It was like Disney.
No, the service you're thinking is like Disney Anywhere or something like that,
Yes.
which ties into things like Ultraviolet and Google Play Store and things like that. Basically, you get a little redemption code when you buy your Guardians of the Galaxy Blu-ray or something like that. And if you redeem that on Disney's digital redemption page, you get a digital copy that you can always stream from Disney that then they link to your, say, your Vudu account, your Google Play account. So anywhere you would go to stream a movie.
Your iTunes account, it's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's really nice. I like it a lot.
Because for a long time, you got those free downloads and I was like, well, I'll put it in iTunes. But iTunes sucks if you ever want to watch it on anything that isn't made by Apple.
Yes.
So it's not quite the same. The rumor that I've seen pop up a few times, I'm not sure it's true, is that basically they want to have their own, think like the WWE network. They want to have the Marvel/Star Wars network where you can go on there and there's just a 24/7 live stream of these things and some on-demand stuff that you could watch whenever for a flat fee.
If anybody had a hope of pulling that together, I think Disney would because of the range of content that they've been building over the last 20 years. Like they've intentionally gone off the G-rated wagon, back in the early 90s or so. I mean, even films like Pirates of the Caribbean and Tron Legacy, I mean, that gets a little bit more gruff than...
Don't talk about Tron. It makes me sad.
I know. It sucks that they cancel it. Come on, bring Tron back, Disney. Bring it back. Just because frickin' what was it that tanked?
Tomorrowland. I'm too sad to talk about this stuff anymore.
Let's talk about Daredevil.
I'm too sad.
Yeah, let's not get into the... Yeah.
Let's talk about Shark Attacks. Never seen them.
Shark attack me.
Yeah. Try not to splash too much.
Look at me, I'm delicious.
Okay, just to quell that question that you had earlier, the robot overlords reference was not an Ultron reference. You can say robot overlords without referencing Ultron.
It wasn't robot, it was computer overlord.
He references that after that when they're talking about the fax machine.
Yeah, it's an extended metaphor, and neither either.
It was wishful thinking. I wanted it to be that way. That's why I put it on there. I don't think it was.
Hashtag it's all connected.
It's a Terminator reference if it's anything.
Tons of Terminator references in here. Yeah, mad at the precinct when he's hearing the cops shoot the guy.
Oh my god, that's so well done.
And then standing in the way while all the cops try and get into the room.
Did you see the poster behind him when he was sitting down, by the way?
I don't remember.
Yeah, the poster basically was like, it was about credit fraud, but it was like reveal identity and stuff like that. It was so funny.
Oh, yeah, I remember those. Yeah, it got lost in all the others.
I love that moment as he's listening in. You can see this look of, oh my god, I know who he is on my face. And then as things turn, he rushes forward like he tries to get involved and it's too late. And you can just see this look of defeat on his face like, oh my god, what do I do now? And as he's thinking that, all the cops rush past him. It's almost slowed down. And I loved how they ended it with just that door slamming shut right in front of him and they go to the next scene.
Yeah. Wow.
Charlie Cox is really good at playing Matt Murdock, man. Just the looks on his face that he conveys without saying a word. So good.
This is, I really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed the bookends. I mean, we talked about it before, but just the title, World on Fire. So when you initially see how he sees the world and he claims it's World on Fire, so you got that going on. And at the end, you literally have the city on fire with the 4 bombs that go off. So it's just, there's so much meaning in these episodes. I'm certain I haven't noticed them all. And I know I'm going to have fun rewatching this yet again at some point in the future. It's just that good.
And I love the little nods to the comics they get in somewhere. Did you guys catch the one about the ascot?
Yes.
Oh, so good. All of a sudden, this tall man in a white suit and ascot. An ascot? That's a bit much. And I was like,
not once did he put on a single white suit. I was waiting just once for him to be like getting ready for his date or something and throw on a white blazer and go, nah. Put it back in the closet.
Fisk fiddling with his cufflinks at dinner.
Okay, so that's going to get to, because that's a nice segue in. The significance of the cufflinks, the fact that he discusses that and divulges that at the table, and then starts to wax really philosophical about his motivation. This is what they used in the first full trailer for the series. They used it as a voiceover, but they grabbed this segment where he was discussing with Vanessa about his motivation for why he goes about the potentially shady business as much as he chose to divulge with her as he does. And this, I think, I'm so glad that it fell at this midpoint or near midpoint within the series, because this defines him so emphatically. Because I know, you and I discussed this back in episode 1. I talked about this with I don't know how many people, both within our sanctum and just like there was a guy at the gym who was wearing a Daredevil t-shirt, and I accosted him for like a half an hour and talked to him about this. I'm like, have you watched the series yet? No. Oh my God. And I sat him down and started going on.
Really? He was wearing a Daredevil shirt and he hadn't watched the series yet?
He hadn't. He was wearing the old school Double D
okay. Yeah.
t-shirt. Real faded, looked like he'd had it for a while, so I could tell he was just kind of an old school fan. But I said, this is something where the mark of any really good protagonist-antagonist series is one where you can maybe not necessarily identify with, but fully understand the mindset of your villain. And where you see, okay, I understand where he's coming from. I do not agree with his choices. I do not in any way condone the way he has carried this out, but I understand his foundation and what it is he thinks he's accomplishing. The only difference between good and evil is the side of the coin you think you're on. And his dialogue with Vanessa in this episode is exactly that, boiled down to its crystalline core. When he has that quick monologue about, I've done things I'm not proud of, I've hurt people, I'm going to hurt more. It's impossible to avoid for what I'm trying to do. You know, he sees himself as a builder, as a reconstructor, as a, I'm not going to say savior, that's not the right word, but, you know, he is that catalyst to bring Hell's Kitchen to what he believes it deserves to be. So, you know, him using that caterpillar and butterfly metaphor and saying that just can't happen. The chrysalis idea doesn't work. This has to be something where it is more like he's going towards the phoenix metaphor. In time with your world on fire, you have to burn this thing to the ground and rebuild it to what it needs to be. So I listen to that and I see his conviction as he's trying to explain this to a woman that he's not trying to terrify her. He's not trying to threaten her. He's not trying to flex in front of her. He's bearing himself. This is absolutely what he believes down to his core. And that's what you get out of it. And that makes a compelling villain.
Yeah, and also, you can look at Vanessa's relationship with Wilson as uncovering who this guy is. Like, first, you get Rabbit in a snowstorm, and at this point in the series, you don't know the significance of it yet. You won't know that for a while, but you get that, you get the cufflinks, you get the mention of him leaving New York City and coming back, and it just feeling the draw to come back and fix things, whatever. And basically, you end up finding out at the end why all these things actually happen. I don't know if this was on TV, like you could have set this up as well as you did, because a regular TV audience wants a little bit better payoff, right? So yeah, maybe 13 episodes is a half a season, so you can go to the mid-season finale or whatever and get a big payoff like you do at the end of this. But they definitely take their time in crescendoing up to what you get in episode 12 and especially episode 13, and you're just along for the ride the whole time, and you get just one small reveal after another, and you see this picture unfolding of Fisk, and it's all so great. I never thought I would enjoy this series as much as I do, and it just surprises me every time I actually turn it on and watch it. It is fantastic. I'm so glad we watched it all the way through like we did when it first came out, and I say this every week, I'm still so glad we're actually sitting down and watching this one episode at a time all this summer. It's great, isn't it, Haley?
Excellent.
Okay. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about the episode? Anything we missed, glanced over? Or?
Yeah. Foggy and Matt keep getting paid in favors and booze.
Food and booze.
They don't even use the favors themselves. They use them on other clients. So this is a very poor business enterprise they're running here.
I know. I don't know where the money is coming from except for Karen's payout.
She's paying for everything.
Which she's using on a broken fax machine.
Yeah.
Sugar mommy?
That's okay. They can stay with the people in the tenements and drink booze for their food calories. It'll be great.
And free Argentinian dishes.
Sounds good to me.
Well, okay, so that's a whole double meaning of why the bombs had to go off, right? So he set a bomb off next to the buildings that he needed vacated that the people were trying to stay at, right? So you set a bomb off either in the building or next to the building, and it makes it unlivable. You have to leave at that point in time. So
because he's diabolical.
Yeah, it's great.
That's such a good word, too.
And there was that awkward face-touching scene.
It wasn't awkward. It was a weird ghost moment. You're expecting to hear Unchained Melody in the background.
It was weird when Foggy brought up Matt doing that to him.
I only did it once.
Once. My mother touched me in the face once.
And then at the end, the police show up.
Yep.
And it's about to be on.
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to next week. Chris, you have anything else for the episode?
I'm good.
Kier?
It's more important than you realize.
This episode?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He's 100% right.
This was, as I was watching it on the treadmill yesterday, I was like, oh my goodness. I wanted to watch it again. I didn't have time, but it's just, oh wow. It's a really good episode. Haley, you have any quotes? Are you all done?
Oh, one more note and then I'll do some quotes.
Okay.
Orange is the New Black came out. So of course I watched every single episode that came out this weekend. And the actress that plays Madame Gao was in it.
Oh.
So just a little tidbit.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right. So let's see. Where's your brother? Like Wesley doesn't know. They're going to shark attack me, Matt. Look at me. I'm delicious. Feels like a place in a movie where you buy a clone or a robot baby or a clone of a robot baby.
I love that scene.
You will see us in court, where I will dismantle you from the top of your salon blowout to the bottom of your overpriced pump.
Overpriced pubs. Oh, and Karen, she was just enjoying it. She's like, wow, this is awesome. Did you see her face when he started to speak? She was like, oh, it's all on now. I'm so glad I'm with these guys.
Like she's watching a Yo Mama battle or something.
Yeah, I know.
Is this a date? I sort of think it is, Senor Foggy.
Ooh.
And then the rest of the quotes are from Fisk's monologue. So.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful stuff. All right. So just amazing episode. So far, I would have to say this is my favorite episode just because I like long running arcs and the payoffs that come from them. So I just really enjoyed that. And, Kieran, Haley, I did listen to your Gallifrey Public Radio from this week, and you were talking about that from the Doctor Who perspective, that you liked stuff that was interwoven and ran throughout the entire series, and where it might or might not be in Doctor Who. Well, it definitely is in Daredevil, and I just really like that sort of thing.
A lot of careful attention paid towards buttoning up things that have been left out there before, continuing to tug at threads that you know you're going to reference later, so that it just shows, it makes the universe feel so much more complete.
Daredevil completes Kier. All right.
I like complete universes. Incomplete universes are so sloppy.
So next week we'll be talking the 6th episode in the Daredevil series called Condemned. It'll be fun. I really enjoyed this. If you have anything to say about Daredevil, go ahead, give us a voicemail, send us a email, or get a hold of one of us, and we would love to hear what you think. And really appreciate Kieran, Chris coming on, but we're not done yet. We have more for you in this podcast. Are you guys ready to hear from Neil?
Let's do it.
All right, hold on a second. We got to play Kier's wonderful Daredevil bump. So here we go. So you heard him last week. You're going to hear him again this week. Neil is dishing out all the information about the Week in Marvel for last week. You guys ready to hear some awesomeness?
Let's do it.
Yes.
I'm a fan of it.
Hi, true believers. Neil here with your Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel moment, covering new releases from the week of June 10th, 2015. We're still in the middle of Marvel's epic summer event Secret Wars, but there's still a few titles from before the cataclysmic end of the 616 and Ultimates universe that are finishing up their runs. Also, this week we have 7 titles led by awesome female protagonists. So what are we waiting for? Let's get into it, starting with titles finishing off their pre-Secret Wars storylines. For fans of the Spider-Verse, this week brings us both Silk issue number 5 and Spider-Gwen number 5. In Silk, Cindy teams up with Spidey to finally confront Black Cat. This series remains on point with great action and witty dialogue, everything you could really want in a Spider book. Spider-Gwen number 5 wraps up the 5-issue miniseries, and it doesn't disappoint either. It ties up a few of the plot lines established in the prior 4 issues, but it goes without saying that this shouldn't be your jumping off point for what was really a good series. Either grab the back issues or pick this one up in trades when it comes out. You won't be disappointed. Silver Surfer number 12 brings Dan Slott's run on Silver Surfer to an end, and while it really moves the relationship between Dawn and Norrin Radford, it relies on the familiar "it's too good to be true" trope to accomplish it. The art isn't really my style, but if you're a fan of hard sci-fi set in the Marvel Universe, this could be your bag. Too bad we don't know if it's coming back post-Secret Wars. Captain America and the Mighty Avengers number 9 wraps up the pre-Secret Wars storyline for Sam Wilson, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and the rest of the team, as we see how the street-level heroes deal with the Incursion event and the end of the world. It's a touching story that reminds the reader that the true heroes aren't always the ones with the powers. Okay, let's get into Secret Wars. First off, Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps number 1. For fans of Kelly Sue DeConnick's classic Carol Danvers series, this corner of Battleworld reintroduces you to the Banshee Squadron from issue 2 of the iconic 2012 relaunch series. Kelly Sue DeConnick effectively rewrote the book with Captain Marvel, and her love and knowledge of the character shines through in what will probably end up being a high watermark in the Secret Wars tie-ins for many of the Marvel fans out there. Spider-Verse number 2 gives the fans of the recent Edge of Spider-Verse event more of what they really want. More Spider-Man, more Spider-Gwen, more Peter Porker, and generally more spidery goodness. As many of the characters in this book recently met up in the Spider-Verse event and actually weren't part of the 616 or Ultimates universe, it really provides a unique perspective. 1602, Witch Hunter Angela number 1 brings Angela, Asgard's assassin, into Secret Wars in a Shakespearean historical fantasy setting within the Marvel Universe. The stylized art and color palette may not be for everybody, but if you love Angela, definitely check this one out. I loved it. Inhumans Attilan Rising number 2 was almost my pick of the week, as the story of the rebellion against Medusa ramps into high gear. The story features backroom dealings in Black Bolt's ultra-swanky club, The Quiet Room, where people from every corner of Battleworld meet in hushed tones in a 1930s-style speakeasy with Peter Quill crooning on the mic with the band. I love what Charles Soule has done with this story, and I definitely can't wait for issue number 3. Ghost Racers number 1 brings together all the pre-Secret Wars Ghost Riders in a Battle Royale-style coliseum, including Johnny Blaze, Carter Slade, Robbie Reyes, and the rest of the Flaming Skull Gang. The art and the sweeping splash pages are beautiful, but I've never really been a huge Ghost Rider fan, and this title didn't pull me in. Mrs. Deadpool and the Howling Commandos number 1 starts with everyone's favorite Merc with a mouth breaking the fourth wall before getting into the main story. This title is an offbeat homage to the monster film genre, with Shikla, Queen of the Monster Metropolis, leading the charge. Deadpool's narration and the usual anything goes style of a Deadpool book make this a fun romp. Secret Wars Journal number 2 again combines 2 short stories in one book, with the first focusing on Misty Knight and Paladin as 2 cops in a convertible in a neon city right out of Grand Theft Auto Vice City or Miami Vice. The second story is a bit more bleak, with Matt Murdock re-envisioned as a blind chef in a story that shows that not every corner of Battleworld is set up for happy endings. My pick of the week this week came out of left field. Marvel Zombies number 1. This issue focuses on Elsa Bloodstone, a little-used character in the Marvel Universe, being thrown from the shield wall which protects the civilized parts of Battleworld from the zombie hordes beyond. She's a fun, gritty character, and the book was full of surprises, fast-paced dialogue, great cameos of zombie Marvel characters, and fantastic art. I mean, come on, a zombie juggernaut? Ultimate End number 2 also dropped this week, and as with Ultimate End number 1, it's a bit weird. Okay, we know that when the 616 universe crashed into the Ultimate Universe, both universes were destroyed and versions of each Marvel character were recreated in each reality of Battleworld. But in Ultimate End, the 616 and Ultimate Universe characters exist side by side in Manhattan, even if some of the same characters also exist outside Manhattan courtesy of the life rafts. Yeah, this makes my brain hurt. Anyways, this book gives us a little snapshot of how various characters interact with each other, including Peter Parker with Gwen Stacy and a younger Aunt May, as well as 2 Tony Starks. Spoiler, he's a big fan of himself. For X-fans out there, Inferno number 2 dropped this week, with Colossus leading his ragtag crew in the Hell on Earth corner of Battleworld. As well, issue 2 of Secret Wars 2099 number 2, dealing with the future versions of some of your favorite characters, also dropped. As well, this week we got Weird World number 1, which creates a cool sword and sorcery Conan-esque corner of Battleworld with a story centered around Archon. Secret Wars definitely has something for everybody. That's it for new releases. Now let's dive into the long boxes where we crack open the Mylar and take a look at a classic back issue. My long box pick of the week for this week was inspired by all the talk of Night Nurse in last week's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cast. This week, we look back on the 2006 5-issue Doctor Strange miniseries The Oak, which focuses on the complex relationship between Wong and Dr. Stephen Strange, as well as on the street-level issues more familiar to Night Nurse than to our dimension's Sorcerer Supreme. There's a ton of backstory, so if you're not familiar with Doctor Strange, you definitely won't be lost. It's an engaging, relatable story that gives the reader an insight into how magic works in the Marvel Universe, as well as more of an insight into Night Nurse's motivation. Again, that's Doctor Strange The Oath from 2006. That's it for this week, folks. If I've missed a release that came out, head over to the forums at forums.gonnageek.com and leave us a note and share your thoughts, or send in a voicemail to the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. crew. Bye, everyone!
That is amazing. I love hearing this from Neil. And oh, by the way, that is all one take. He does it in one take every week.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I was like, oh, and matter of fact, he's like, is it okay if I don't do it in one take next week? It's just, it takes me a lot. I'm like, really? You do it in one take? He said, yeah. So I was like, yeah, I can edit and post. Don't worry about it, buddy. So I just want to say thank you again, Neil. That is amazing. And we will continue to hear from Neil in the future. So what do you guys think about it?
Me gusta.
I can't wait till I get to those storylines.
Yeah, seriously. It just reiterates the fact that there's just so much content I can't keep up with.
How much does he spend in comics each week? Because it's got to be a lot if he's reading all the Marvel Secret Wars stuff. I mean, I'm only reading a select bit of it. I feel like I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how he reads all of them.
Well, is the new stuff on that Marvel
No.
$10? Oh, okay.
None of the new stuff's going to be on there because they're charging $3 to $4 a pop for those books.
Yeah, you can buy digital copies of it still, so you don't have to lug around $100 worth of comics all the time, but
we'll have to ask him. We'll have to get that from him for next week, because that's a good point. But yeah, he's keeping track of all the Marvel stuff, and he's really a DC guy too, so he loves talking about DC, and it's great to have him on the network. He is on Legends Podcast every week, so you can go ahead and check him out there, but this is his chance to talk everything Marvel, and it's awesome. So thank you very much.
All the comics.
Yeah, and he would actually like to be on the podcast here with us on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's just with the time difference, he's just not able to do it. So this is his way of participating, and we thank him very much. Are you guys ready to get to some news in a second?
Yeah.
Let's news it up.
Because first of all, we got to talk about a big news story. GonnaGeek yesterday turned 100.
Old bastards.
Yeah.
Which is why we had technical problems when we started tonight.
Dang you, Steven. Don't do it. I can't wait to see what happens when we turn 100. That's just, with all the gear I'm looking at right now, I'm shuddering.
You're getting close.
I know. GonnaGeek turned 100. We had a full network participation. We had voicemails from a bunch of stuff. I know, Keir, you had some funny ones. It was great. It was the second 100 we've had this year, and yeah, unqualified gamers, we didn't really appreciate the tech problems that came with that. So we're hoping to minimize them this time around, and we'll see. But Steven and Wing and Chris and JS, they were all on the podcast last night. JS, it was such a monumental thing that he podcasted with pneumonia. It was dude.
Fresh out of the hospital, we might add.
So good on you, dude. But if you guys want to go check that out, as we record tonight, it'll be out tomorrow, but by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be out for a while. So go ahead, go back, check it out. It was a fun episode, wasn't it, Chris?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was so much fun.
All right, we're going to get to some news now. Here we go. All right. We're going to talk about Avengers Age of Ultron and how good they have done so far, because it actually will come in handy later on. So, Haley, what do we got?
Domestic, it's at $445.7 million, and worldwide, $1.36 billion.
I'm trying to remember when I was a kid if movies even got up to $1 billion. I don't think so. What was Haley, you looked at the list of billion-dollar movies a while back. Do you remember the first one? Was it Titanic?
Just a second, I can bring it back up.
Okay. Well, if it was Titanic, I think that was in the 90s, so...
Yeah, it was the late 90s. I did not want to see that movie, and my mother made me.
And you cried.
I didn't cry. I just was bummed.
So $1 billion, that is a lot of money for a movie, and my hats off to you guys. Wasn't as much opening weekend as the original Avengers, but hey, it was a fun movie. I'm glad I went to see it, and we'll see about Ant-Man, Fantastic Four, and all the rest of the Marvel movies. When's the next X-Men movie coming out? Is that next year?
I think Deadpool comes out before the next X-Men movie.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is technically an X-Men movie.
I thought there was another Wolverine movie coming out before then, too. Or is it after that?
Wolverine's not until after X-Men Apocalypse, I don't think.
That is true.
Okay.
That is right. So, talking about Avengers Age of Ultron and one of the actors in it, Chris Hemsworth, we have this as the highlight story of the week just because, and we have talked about this on various other podcasts on the network this week, but I just wanted to tell everybody that Chris Hemsworth is going to be in the Ghostbusters sequel.
As the secretary.
I think seeing a surfer dude as a secretary will be kind of enjoying, but there's lots to talk about there. I just think it'll be fun seeing him in a different role than Thor.
Sure.
Okay. So talking about the cast again of Avengers Age of Ultron, apparently Ruffalo didn't know if he was in the next Captain America Civil War movie or not, and I guess Robert Downey Jr. actually told him.
I don't know if I believe he's going to show up.
By the way, I'm expecting to see you there. You owe me a coffee.
So we'll see. Okay, so we talked about how great Avengers Age of Ultron did in the box office. Well, Jurassic World basically put everything to shame.
And who'd have thunk, man? I mean, I figured it'd make money, but I didn't think it'd be that much money.
I didn't either. I didn't go see it. Did you guys see it?
No.
Not yet.
No, it's on this weekend's docket.
Well,
Same here.
Now it is. I wonder what the drop's going to be. That'll be interesting to see how much the drop's going to be.
I don't know. Is there anything else coming out?
If there's nothing else coming out, it's going to be solid.
Yeah, that's just it. What's it running against? Mad Max already crested.
Well, it's wedding season, you know? So a lot of people...
What?
A lot of people that go to movies will be going to... Well, I shouldn't say that.
Seriously? You're using that as a defense?
Well,
Marvel, you know,
I'm
the
walking
fight took
away.
off like
yeah,
9%.
So there you go.
Weddings.
I mean, there's specific seasons for movies to do well in the box office. The people
I don't think that's true anymore.
Well, I mean, if you have it in the winter, you have problems with storms knocking out a portion of your audience. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see with Star Wars.
Except Star Wars is going to make all the money.
$300 million.
They're printing more money right now to have enough money for how much a Star Wars is going to make.
Exactly.
So how much exactly did Jurassic World make domestic this weekend?
208 million and some change.
Wow.
Half a metric crap ton.
And by change, I mean a few 100,000 more.
Yeah. Close to $500 million worldwide. Wow.
It's insane. Insane.
It's insane, too. Yeah.
Insane in the membrane.
Right. All right. So who's the Spider-Man fan on this cast? Because Jay's not here.
It's probably me.
Okay. What do you got, big guy?
Evidently, the rumors were that, if you go back 2 weeks ago, the rumors were that Asa Butterfield was the next Spider-Man. The current rumors coming out of the Sony/Marvel camp, Asa Butterfield is no longer in the running to be Spider-Man.
Big mistake.
He's almost definitely not, probably not.
Yeah, it's casting rumors. Who knows at this point?
I think
people are just talking and other people are listening.
Well, I think what's coming down to is a lot of these actors are seeing the big bankrolls that Marvel is getting and saying, hey, pony up some money. And Marvel's saying, nah, you're not worth that much.
It's not Marvel, it's Sony.
Well, okay, in this case. Well, yeah. Feige's involved in the casting, though.
Feige's involved in things like this.
Yeah, but he's not signing any checks.
It's a Sony movie that has a tie-in to the MCU.
Fair enough. It's going to be the same individual cast. At least that's what we're thinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That individual will cross over into the MCU movies because Spider-Man is going to be shared between them, but it is still a Sony movie.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how it goes.
Well, the principal shortlist of who they're considering at this point changes on literally a monthly basis.
Exactly. They're throwing crap up against a wall to see what sticks.
I mean, a lot of the people that are still on the consideration list, I mean, as far as this report goes, I don't know. The only common thread is the fact that they all look, as far as screen conveyance, to be well under 18 years of age. Screen age. I mean, they look to play about 16.
Right, and that goes in with the rumors they're saying they want Spider-Man to be between 16 to 18, still in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So if you cast someone that looks that young, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I.e., don't do the casting of the last two Spider-Man.
Don't cast 30-year-olds to play 18-year-olds?
Pretty much.
That's crazy talk.
21 Jump Street.
Jeez, Uncle Ben. You're making this so hard on me. I'll clean my
I didn't know your voice went that low, Keir. That's funny.
I'm an auditory chameleon.
I see. And once again, we have a few Star Wars related stories that we'll put in the show notes. So that's just incentive to open up the show notes and see these stories there if you haven't already seen them. Because we like Star Wars on this cast. So we're just sharing the love there. And talking about sharing the love, we have a podcast on the network called Tyrion's Landing. A bunch of ladies talk about Game of Thrones. And we had the season finale of Game of Thrones this week. And they talked the physics of riding dragons, nudity protests, draining pictures, not pictures. And that's just the news. The finale has it all. Slitting throats, poisonings, leaps of death, walks of atonement, and cesarean deaths. Jeannie, Rachel, and Nikki discuss all of it, including missing direwolves and wounded dragons. So you can find that. That's episode 89, Mother's Mercy.
I'll actually be guesting on Tyrion's Landing next week to discuss the season recap.
Ooh.
And how disgusted I am in general. So
that will be interesting.
Aim all those nasty comments at me now.
Somebody's gonna rage quit.
That's Keir at GonnaGeek.com.
Plan on it.
Is it Keir at GonnaGeek.com, or do we have to use the Gallifrey Public Radio one?
I don't know if the GonnaGeek.com address auto-forwards, but yeah, there's always Keir at Gallifrey Public Radio. We'll get into that in a minute.
All right, there you go. All right, we're going to run into some feedback. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Ferris tweeted us. And Ferris was on the last podcast. We love you, Ferris. He tweeted us a picture of Punisher and Daredevil. Did you guys see it? You see it?
Yes.
See it? It's
Indeed.
fun, isn't it? Awesome. So you can catch his tweet at DXFerris. It was June 15th. Or it'll be in the show notes, so you can check it there too. Our frequent tweeter at Mr. Paracletes tweeted us and said, sad to hear of True, but looking forward to whom they choose. He's talking about the Spider-Man news. So thank you very much, sir, for sending that our way. Richard, who you can find at Kodiak GWC on Twitter, tweeted us an IO9 story about Doctor Strange may have found its villain.
Yeah. They look like they've tracked down their Baron Mordo, which should be an interesting cast. That's a tough one to peg, but Ejiofor is an interesting talent. I mean, you've seen him in a lot of things. He's one of those characters where you look at and go, oh, who is that guy? Oh, that guy!
That guy from
exactly.
that thing.
Right.
That guy.
So, but that's totally aside from all of the what's filling our house this week, which is all the discussion about who are they going to cast for American Gods. So...
So thank you very much for all the tweets. Thank you for hanging in there with us on Tuesday nights for the live tweets. I don't think Lauren had a chance to do that last night, but she will be back next week. And you can catch episode 6 being live tweeted by Lauren. It is always a great thing. And Lauren I'll speak on her behalf. Thank you very much for chiming in on that. It is fun to be had by all. So Andy, back on April 13th, sent us an email about episode 5, which we've been holding on to all this time. And he had
gathering dust.
Yeah, he had a few things to say. He's first of all, he said Claire and Matt's second scene was more of what I was hoping for, that she can't fall in love with somebody who is so close to the darkness. I wasn't happy with their kiss earlier in the episode.
She kisses with a lot of tongue.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the kiss. I mean, that was definitely, it was a big thing. We talked about the world on fire part of the scene, but we didn't talk about the kiss. So.
Rosario Dawson can kiss me anytime she wants. I'm just putting that out there.
Bloody lip or
lick
not.
kiss.
Yeah, I don't care.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's what I mean, she's got a broken rib, bloody lip and everything, and they're making out. It's like, ew, that's gonna hurt. That's all I was thinking.
She was trying to push him off of her with her tongue. That's why there was so much tongue involved.
That's fantastic.
And to get to the point that we spent a half an hour on, the show continues humanizing Fisk. And I think, yes, that is very true. And finally, he says the 5th episode so far is my favorite. So, Andy, you and I think alike so far.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it for the feedback this week. You can go ahead and send us a voicemail about any part of Daredevil. We'll gladly talk about it. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Avengers, Spider-Man, whatever. If it's Marvel related, go ahead and give us a voicemail, 844-THE-BUS-1 or 844-843-2871. If you're going to send an email like Andy has been doing, StargatePioneer@GonnaGeek.com. You can also hit Haley or Lauren up at GonnaGeek.com. They will gladly take your email. All right, are you guys ready to walk this one out?
Yerp.
I'm already halfway to the door.
I think it's time.
Woohoo, we made it! Yay! So join us next week. As I mentioned before, we will be discussing Daredevil episode 6, Condemned. Lauren will be live tweeting that Tuesday night starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. That is the normal time where she live tweets Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So go ahead, check that out. Next week, we will have the Lobster back.
Woot.
He will
Lobster.
undoubtedly be talking his Tappa Talk, as he loves to. For those of you that don't know, Lobster is from GonnaGeek podcasts such as Gotham, Nightline, Crimson Comet with Haley, and Art House Legends. Mm-hmm. I was just going to say Art Legends, but I knew that was wrong. I knew that. There we go.
Where they just discuss Gauguin all night long.
Our website is legendsofshield.com. That will take you directly to our portion of the GonnaGeek.com website, so you can catch us either way. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. As Haley said before at the beginning of the podcast, you can catch us there. I put all the episodes on YouTube in addition to the great panel that Eric sent us before from Art House Legends on Haley Atwell. Still, thank you very much for that, sir. We really appreciate that. And, of course, we have forums. You can find them at forums.GonnaGeek.com or search GonnaGeek, all one word, on your Tap Talk app. We are in a bunch of different places, but Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, you can catch us there. If you listen to podcasts on a specific app, we're not there, let me know. I will make sure that we're on there. Keir, thank you very much for adorning us with your presence for the second time during this rewatch.
As always, thank you for including me on this episode in particular. This is a special one.
Where can other people find you?
On a regular basis, if you are of the Whovian ilk, you can make sure to catch us over at Gallifrey Public Radio, also on the GonnaGeek Network. So you can find a little more details at GallifreyPublicRadio.com or on Twitter at Gallifrey Radio. I'm also starting up another cast, the In Defense cast, or known as In Defense Of. We'll discuss that at a later point. In fact, be talking to you in the near future, correct? I believe.
That is true. You will be talking to me, and I can't wait. That will be next week when we record. I don't know when it will air, but that will be fun recording that.
If we record on Thursday, it will be out Friday morning because I'm just like that.
Wow. An editing guru. You're going to have to give me your tips.
I just don't care.
I see.
Leave it all in.
Rip it and rip it
I know
like
that
Chris.
feeling.
Yeah, there you go. Haley and I are so OCD-ish, we just can't do that. So it's just different styles of what you do, and it is great. You can find that podcast at indefenseof.com. Is that correct?
InDefenseCast.
Indefensecast.com. So can't wait to hear that. So Chris, this was a last-minute ad. Thank you very much for stepping in for Lauren. I know she appreciates you being here for her.
I was happy to help out. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks. I'm glad this worked out. So it was really fun. Thanks, everybody in the chat room. Ileana, you're there almost every week. It's great to see you and everybody else. The guests, we have a couple guests this week and everybody else. So that's great.
Thank you, guest 287. Yeah!
Yeah!
Love that guy.
There's also guest 712.
Oh, yeah.
That guy. How you
Like
doing,
you
that
almost
guy?
as much.
How do you know if they're guys? What if they're gals?
I don't
It
know.
could just be the generic term guy.
Pics or GTFO?
Wow, it's getting kind of adult.
Getting to be the end of the cast, isn't
Yeah,
it?
there you go.
Haley needs some nap time.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for listening in on Mixlr, on our YouTube live stream. We really appreciate you.
And thank you to everybody that hit us up on Twitter this week, and to Andy for his awesome emails. And thank you to everybody who's going to send us feedback next week, because we really appreciate that too.
We do.
So send us feedback.
Until next time, I'm Agent Stargate Pioneer.
I'm Agent Haley.
I'm just Keir.
And I'm Chris.
Bye. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Ozzy.
Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to GonnaGeek.com and you will find all of our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofs.h.i.e.l.d.com, where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod and can be found at incompetech.com. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual host and do not represent Legends, Stream, or GonnaGeek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation. No infringement is intended.
What's up?
Hey, Haley, how you doing?
Fine.
We're rapidly trying to get set up here.
Okay. I'm just going to be eating my McChickens over here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Death in a box.
It's in a bag.
Death in a bag. I love this one gag Ant-Man poster, promo poster. This is from the studio that brought you the Blade Trinity. I can't. You know.
I feel like the Hobbit movie should have said from the studio that brought you Little Nicky.
You incestuous bastards.
Says the guy starting a new podcast with a bunch of people already on the network.
Not Steve.
Who's not Steve?
A different Steve.
We got another Steve.
Steve Carl.
Ah!
Zero.
That's the third Steve.
Steves are the new Daves.
The triad is complete.
The Trinity.
The Stevenity.
Trinity of Steves.
Who has not been on the air in a year and a half, and I dragged him out of the woodwork.
Wow.
Oh yeah, he was on Procrasticast.
Yeah, a year and a half ago.
If any podcast was ever destined to pod fade.
It was built into the title. I'll send you a tweet later with the photos of some of the DVDs that made it through the great cull of 2014.
Yeah.
Where, oh, look, hon, we've got 2 copies of Serenity. We've got 2 copies of, the BSG, multi-season. We've got 2 copies of this. What the f*** is this? Oh, that's some princess movie. I couldn't really understand. And there was another one with a little happy penguin. What the f*** are these things? I grew up on these. They're so good.
You have
That's
met
great.
Julie, right?
I grew up on Ghostbusters and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I've still never seen Ghostbusters all the way through.
Why is Nathan Fillion tweeting pictures of himself in the shower?
Why wouldn't he?
I mean, there is that, I guess.
Maybe he's
Because he
stuck.
wants to be John Barrowman when he grows up.
Maybe
That's why.
he's stuck. He's going the William Taft route. And
There you go.
He has been bulking up.
I already feel bad about what Keir and I did to Jay this weekend.
I saw.
I don't feel bad at all.
That was a funny outtake. Sweet.
All right. So let's see. Where's your brother? Like you don't know, Wesley. I'm gonna let that train roll on by.
Yeah,
I was like, am I hearing a train?
We're gonna take a little admin pause, and Haley's gonna restart her quotes.
Wham.
Choo choo.
Okay, Haley, take that from the top.
Movies above $1 billion. Where'd my cutoff go? Oh, looking at the what?
The joy of live podcasting. It's all right.
No, this is drunk. Oh, because I'm looking at the wrong chart. That's why.
Oops.
Service unavailable. Never mind. Great podcast, guys.
Hey, fun. Okay, so
Just edit that whole thing out. We'll be fine.
we'll do that. Broadcast has been successfully terminated.